Compliance video number 4, Practice and Playing Seasons. Sports have distinct segments to their playing and practice seasons that determine how much time may be devoted to practice and competition. All of our sports except basketball have two distinct segments to their playing season, a championship segment and a non-championship segment, with one segment occurring in the fall and the other in the spring. As a winter sport, basketball only has a championship segment that spans parts of the fall and spring semesters. When teams are not in their playing season, they are in their out-of-season segment. Prior to the beginning of your sports seasons, all head coaches are required to declare their playing season by submitting the Declaration of Playing Season form. On this form, coaches note when practices begin and end and how many dates of competition or contests they have scheduled, including scrimmages, exhibition games, and any other contests against outside competition. Coaches will also designate their week, whether they will use, for example, a Sunday through Saturday week or a Monday through Sunday week. This will be the weekly framework they will use throughout the academic year for recording required activities each week. All required athletically related activities, CARA, are countable and must be included in the weekly record of hours that coaches document during the academic year. Countable activities include practices, competition, film sessions, chalk talks, weights, and conditioning. Activities that are not countable, even though they may be required, are academic meetings, team travel, study tables, and community service. There are clear limits on the number of hours coaches may require of their student athletes. During the playing season, whether it's the championship segment or non-championship segment, the limit is 20 hours per week. When teams are outside of the playing season, and in the segment we call the conditioning segment, weekly hours are limited to 8. Along with the time limits for CARA, there are also requirements for days off. During the playing season, when CARA is limited to 20 hours per week, coaches must provide 1 day off per week. During the conditioning segment, or 8-hour weeks, coaches must provide 2 days off per week. Thus, as coaches turn in their weekly record of CARA during the playing season, they will need to make sure that each sheet includes 1 day off. The day off does not have to be the same day each week. When teams are out of season, and this excludes football, so in their conditioning segment or 8-hour week, coaches may use up to 2 hours per week in individual skill instruction. For individual sports and teams with lineups of 6 or fewer, coaches may do skill instruction with groups of up to 4 individuals. For teams with more than 6 in their lineup, coaches may conduct skill instruction with groups of up to 6 individuals. Remember that these skills groups must each have a coach, and there is to be no commingling of groups during skill instruction. Also, if coaches conduct a tryout using current student athletes during this segment, they must count the time of the tryout against the 2-hour limit for skill instruction. Depending on the time period, these 2 hours per week may be used for team activities. For fall sports, the 2 hours of team activities are permissible from the beginning of classes in the spring semester until February 15. For winter sports, team activities are allowed starting the 4th day of classes in the fall until the playing season starts on October 15th. For spring sports, the time frame for team activities is the 4th day of classes until the start of the non-championship segment. This is a good place to talk about what constitutes voluntary activities. For athletically related activities to be considered voluntary, the following criteria must be met. Student athletes cannot be required to report their activities, and other coaches may not report their participation. Student athletes must request or initiate the participation in the activity. There is no penalty for student athletes who elect not to participate in the activity. For those sports that have playing seasons conducted prior to the start of classes or over vacation periods, there are different rules in effect. For fall sports, there are very specific restrictions on the number and length of practices during preseason to ensure student athletes are properly acclimatized to their sport's physical demands. Over vacation periods, only those sports that are in season, whether in their championship or non-championship segment, may have required practices. The weekly hour limits and required days off are not in force over a vacation period. If a sport is not in season over the vacation, however, no activities can be required for student athletes. For sports that are not in season, No required activities are permissible for the time period starting with the last week of classes through the end of final exams. Sports that are in season, though, may continue with their 20-hour weeks of countable activities. The winter break is a 7-day period during which no student athletes may engage in countable athletically related activities. Furthermore, all athletics facilities will be closed during this week-long break, as student athletes are only permitted use of facilities open to the general student body. Furthermore, no expenses may be paid for student athletes on these 7 days, so no meals or payment for the dorm. The winter break for the 2013-14 academic year starts Monday, December 23rd and goes through Sunday, December 29. Except for football, sports teams are required to take a 2-week break from all countable athletically related activities at the conclusion of their season. The conclusion of the season is when all competition is completed and the team is no longer in consideration for postseason play. During this 2-week break, you may conduct end-of-season meetings and student athletes may engage in voluntary activities, but no athletically related activities can be required. Also, if you choose to conduct a tryout during this period, you may not involve current student athletes, as the time in the tryout counts as countable athletically related activities. Here are a few other additional restrictions. No class time may be missed for practice, except when traveling to an away contest or in conjunction with the conference or NCAA championship hosted by Washburn. No class time can be missed for competition in the non-championship segment. Conditioning activities may not include any equipment related to the sport, and no offensive or defensive alignments may be used. Each sport has a designated number of contests or dates of competition that they may schedule for their playing season. Please note that any scrimmage or play against outside competition counts against your contest limitations. In computing your number of allowable contests or dates of competition, please note the various exemptions available to you. Annual exemptions are those contests that you may exempt each year, things like conference tournament matches or an alumni game. Discretionary exemptions are generally limited to 3 per year, and they include exhibition games, scrimmages, and competition against non-Division II 4-year institutions. Foreign tours are a once in 4-year exemption. Contest exemptions are sport-specific, so be sure to consult the full list of contest exemptions for your sport in Bylaw 17.
This is Coach Duggleby with your practice and playing seasons compliance question. You have set up a time for your team to do strength and conditioning workouts with me, and you want to know how your players are progressing through these workouts. Do you have to include these workouts in your weekly hours? If so, why? And if not, why not? Be sure to email Joe with your responses by the end of this month.